Good morning. What an absolutely glorious day. 7:30 in the morning, hot and sunny, forecast 30 degrees, beautiful Norfolk countryside, just on the edge of Thetford Forest. It's Wheating Rally, but I've got other things to do today. Because I'm here at Cheffins. It's the July sale at Sutton near Ely, and it clashes with Wheating unfortunately, so I can't come tomorrow. But nonetheless, I thought I'd come on the Friday, see what's around, see what's going on. There's not many people here because the main sale doesn't take place as usual until the Saturday, so all the tractors and the equipment, cars and such like. Sale number one goes on Friday, with all the books and literature. So I'm keen to have a look around, see what's going on, see what's for sale, see what takes my fancy. So join me and let's go and see what we can see. So I'm going to start with the cars, and first up in the yard is this pristine looking Ford Fiesta Mark 1 van. Now, I had a Ford Fiesta car exactly like this. I think it was a V-Reg, this is a T, and it was white. I blew the engine on it in the end and it scrapped it. And you know what, I wish I never had, because these things are making silly money. As a van, not quite sure it's quite as practical as a car, but how many of these do you see on the road? Very, very few. And even being a base model L, people really love these. I suppose it's because Fords, such like Vauxhalls, Austins, they all rotted away and there's very few left. And people are looking for nostalgia and memories, dad's car and all of that stuff. And this is what we drove in the 80s and the 70s. This is what we went on holiday in. Diddy little cars like this. Clearly it's been restored, it looks absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't buy it myself personally because it's not that practical for me, but yeah, very, very nice. And this Land Rover, this is 135 miles on the clock. Why it's badged up as a UN vehicle, I do not know. It's a 59 plate, which makes it 2009. Its MOT expired in 2018, and it is in absolutely pristine condition, and it's offered with no reserve. Everything on it is perfect. It's not done any work whatsoever. It's sat in a museum or in a collection somewhere, and it's done nothing at all. What I do find curious is that on the front it's got a light bar with a load of very old badges and some patina on there, which seems very strange to me, but each to their own. Everything else is pristine on it. The winch has got a bit of grime and dirt on it, but everything else is pristine. So why you'd fit a light bar like that, I don't know. And the lights on the corners of the bumpers, I don't quite know why they're there either. But they sort of let it down a little bit in my view. But if anybody knows anything about this vehicle, I'll be interested to know why it's got UN written on the side of it. But clearly it's not done anything at all. Next we've got a Daimler. The Daimler version of the XJ Jaguar. We've seen plenty of those in recent weeks. Not yet a classic, well, maybe some would argue. It's a 70 plate Honda Civic EX Sport, and if you're into Honda Civics, they've got quite a following. This one's for sale, although it's only obviously three years old, something like that. A very nice usable MGB GT, chrome bumper model, M registered, so 1974 give or take. Looks like a very usable car, quite probably been restored. Looks fairly tidy, like it's been done properly. That's a very nice car. It's got some spares with it as well. It's a nice buy if you like MGBs. I've had an MGB, or rather my ex-wife had an MGB, and yeah, I've became intimately acquainted with that car. Again, it's offered with no reserve. It's got 47,000 miles on the clock. That could be 147,000 miles though. But if it is 47,000, it may not have been restored, in fact. But it's a nice tidy example nonetheless. There's a couple more relatively modern cars. The Renault, first up, 21 plate, Renault Clio RS. Very nice condition, but it's only a couple of years old, so you'd expect that. And we've got a Mercedes E320. So diesel, 11 plate, so what, 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, something like that. Next to that we've got Toyota EX250 pickup. Now, as we all probably know, Toyota Hiluxes are absolutely bomb-proof. It tells me on the ticket there that it's got 36, nearly 37,000 miles on it. One owner from new. That's probably a pretty good buy, actually. It looks like it's been well looked after. And just looking underneath, just look at the chassis. Actually, that could really be genuine mileage. That is in very clean condition, actually. It's very nice indeed. It's an 03, so that makes it 21 years old. But it's a Toyota, so it'll be absolutely bomb-proof. Don't know if you remember Top Gear with their Hilux, quite a few years ago now, when they tried to kill a Hilux and they just could not do it. I think that was an absolutely excellent advert for Toyota Hilux pickups. Now this thing here, this is a Sutton kit car, and a little story I've got about one of these is that when I was at college in 1983-84, one of our college lecturers had one of these, and we thought he was, well, maybe perhaps that's a generalisation, I thought he was double cool having one of these, because it looks a bit like a Lotus 7, but it's not. His name was Mark Headley. If you ever see this Mark Headley, if you're out there somewhere, it's 40 years since we parted at college. I thought you were double cool having one of these things, but today I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. I think I wouldn't touch any kit car with a barge pole. You just don't know who the hell's fixed it, built it, how safe it is, or anything. I think this one's got Triumph running gear on it. It's got a Triumph engine in it, from what I can tell looking under the bonnet. Yeah, it's okay in theory, but no, not for me. Certainly the fiberglass body needs a lot of work. All the gel coats all crazed on it and everything. The seats, yeah, my god. But it would be a bit of fun if you got it going, that's for sure, but it's not for me. So if you're out there, Mark Headley, this reminds me of you and those heady days at college. Now, this little A35 Austin van wouldn't look out of place at Goodwood Revival, would it? This has been beautifully restored. It's got a lovely patina engine in there. Really, really nice. Racing service, Silverstone. It's 1960. Interestingly, it's got a T plate registration. 1977, 78, something like that. Not sure why. There's a bit of history with it on the placard there. And we've also got a 1957 Comma van to go with it next door. Again, racing service. Would look good at Goodwood Revival or any classic car show. or any classic car race meet or something like that. In actual fact, it actually says at the bottom, previously seen at Goodwood Revival. Beautiful condition. TR7, what can you say about TR7s? Well, they were a cool car on the day. It was one of those sort of cars you looked at it and thought, wow, what a fantastic car, I really want one of those, when you was a kid of course. But I think they had their problems. I don't think they were that popular. I think Triumph and Mate were trying too hard. Personally, they made a V8 version called the TR8. That was probably pretty hot, but it's very much of its day, very much of its period. S-Reg 1977, something like that. Perhaps you could argue a bit ahead of its time, maybe. Difficult to say. I'm not sure they took off really. You don't see that many around. One owner, 8 miles since 2012. So it's been sat in a collection somewhere. 2007 BMW Mini. So you talk about a Mini, it's not Mini anymore, is it? I mean, they're a great looking car, but it's not really a Mini. Not in my world, put it that way. My daughter's got one of these now, in replacing the Citroen C3. It's a Mini one, so it's not quite as souped up as this one. This is a John Cooper Works car, offered without reserve, so we'll see what it makes. Looks in very good condition. It's 67 plates, so it's 2017, 2018, something like that. So not very old at all. It's in very good condition by the look of it. It's got delivery mileage on it, so therefore it's absolutely brand new. It's been bought and put in a collection, obviously. And I suspect that all the cars in here are actually from the same person, because they're all offered without reserve, and they all seem to have very low mileage. And this MGB Roadster, this red one, got 1,200 miles on the clock. So yeah, I would suggest that this has probably come from an estate. Beautiful condition. If you want to buy an MGB Roadster, it's offered without reserve. You'd have to do nothing to this. It looks perfect. Beautiful interior too as well. Definitely very, very nice condition. And next to it, which is the one I would have, is the V8. That's the V8 GT, so obviously the fixed head. But the Rover V8 is an absolutely superb engine. Range Rover, Land Rover, Rover SD1s, all sorts of cars that went in. And it was particularly potent in the MGB. 68,000 miles on this, so it's done a bit of work. And an exceptionally cool car, Volvo P1800. This has got speed written all over it. Sorry, it's a bit tight in here, trying a bit close up. But yeah, really cool car. Being a Volvo, it'd be bomb-proof as well. Again, offered without reserve, 28,000 miles on the clock. Every one of these cars has got a teddy bear in it, which is interesting, so they must be from the same person. As I said, clearly coming from an estate. And a very unusual car that you don't see, and that's a Mazda 929. 1978. 14,500 miles. It's got a bit of wear on there. It's probably got more than 14,000 miles of wear on the seats. But remember, it's Japanese, so it could have done 114,000. But again, if you're into Japanese cars, find another one. It's a pillarless two-door coupe. It's in the fantastic condition, in fact, when I look at it hard. Pillarless, nothing there. Fantastic, that. 1800 engine in it. It's a Mazda. It'll be bomb-proof. All these cars in this row are offered without reserve. And then, in my view, the pièce de résistance of the sale for the cars is going to be this absolutely beautiful Lagonda. It has been in a dry barn somewhere since 1968, last run in 1968. It's got a 6-cylinder Lagonda engine in it, all complete. Everything is there. It turns freely, so you wouldn't need to do too much work getting it going. Maybe some oil down the bores, check the compression, check the valves aren't stuck, check a spark, put some fuel in it and fire it up. But it wouldn't take much to run. It is in beautiful condition for its age. It's 1934, it's an M45 ST35. Now clearly it's been sat. You can see there that it's been sat with a flat tyre, but they've put air in the tyres and they're holding up, which is pretty incredible. The only bit of rot that I can find in the bodywork is on the rear wing there. I think the tyre needs work. But the touches of Lagonda and any of these sort of period vintage cars, this is the fuel cap. I mean, absolutely brilliant. Again, it's pillarless, so all the strength is going to be in the frame. There'll be an ash frame as well. This period of car will have a wooden frame, and the problem of course with wood is, you can see down there, woodworm. But it doesn't look too bad, and it might actually be alright. This car, yes, it needs a lot of work. It looks like a baggy old pair of slippers, but I think that this car would not take a huge amount to get it back on the road. I might be wrong, I might be a little bit rose-coloured spectacles perhaps, but it is absolutely complete. It is not falling to bits. I think that's the point, it's not falling to bits. It is, you know, there's some rust on it and rot, but nowhere near as much as you might expect of a car of this age. I think this is fantastic. What a fantastic looking car, and the line of it is brilliant. Look at the length of that bonnet to take in all that engine, and the sweep of the front wings and the rear wings as they sweep off to the back. Absolutely beautiful. That is a fantastic restoration project. Take you a lot of time and a lot of effort, but probably a lot of money. But I think to get this on the road actually wouldn't take a huge amount of work. And if you like the lived-in look, you've certainly got it with this. It's all complete, it's all there, from what I can tell. So we'll see how much that makes. I'll be interested to know. Not that I'm looking for another project, but nonetheless. Fantastic Lagonda. From a motorbike point of view, you've got quite a few bikes in this time. Again, Royal Enfields. Some of them I recognise from last sale, especially that Royal Enfield, that green one over there. That looks familiar. That one there. And there's another one in the line in a moment I'll show you, which I think was here before. There's a Harley, if you're into Harleys, a nice looking bike. Sunbeam, that's a nice patina. Again, you wouldn't need to do too much to that. It's got chopper handles on it, that's interesting. A Yamaha, big road bike, mopeds. Little BSA, got an engine for one of those. Vela set. Couple of Triumphs. And then there's this Royal Enfield that I think was here last time, possibly didn't sell last time. But that's a nice stripped down bike, isn't it? Could be a bit of fun for somebody. An Ariel. Again, very nice. A nice Norton there. Big bike that, 750. Another Sunbeam. Nice colour that actually. Very nicely restored. A white Triumph. fact 3 Triumphs altogether. All at different ages, but very nice. If you're into bikes, this is the place to come on July 20th, 2024. As always, there's a massive array of car spares. We've got gauges, we've got horns, we've got lights, we've got lanterns, we've got electric horns, we've got rubber bulb horns, seats for bicycles, a few grills this time around. There's a Wolsey grill there, a couple of Van Damme Plough grills, nice condition, a couple of bucket seats, more gauges. Oh, nice XK120 dash picture. That looked nice on the wall, wouldn't it? We've got a grill for an S-type Jaguar, Daimler grill there, Daimler grill there as well, 2 Daimler grills, all sorts of bits and pieces. Badges, cans, oil cans always do well here, and signs.
2013 279 then the cans.
Lots of period pictures and signs, really good thing. I don't know where all this stuff comes from, I really don't. Oil pumps, oil cans, signs and signs, more signs. There's a clocking in machine by the look of it. Old crate of milk bottles, or some kind of bottles, I'm not quite sure. Oil. Esso lube. Various lights and jacks in that lot there. Carburetors, Van Damme Plough, chrome parts. More lights, all sorts of different types of lights, chrome bezels. Bling up your exhaust, you've got a load of exhaust tailpipes, air cleaners, all sorts going on. This was in last time, so clearly it didn't sell. I think it made about, well, the hammer was about £1,200. But it looks like it didn't sell. It's back in the sale again. And then finally we got a little bit of fairground. Not a huge amount this time around. But yeah, the July sale is not quite as, doesn't have quite as many lots in it as the spring and the autumn. So there's some fairground if you're interested in the fairground signs and horses and rides and such. So we've got a nice small selection of implements this time around, all in pretty good condition. There's a big subsoiler there, that can rip up some soil. Very interesting trailed cultivator with a little turntable 4-carriage on it. Really quite interesting actually, but it's only got 3 tines on it, so you wouldn't do a huge amount, and there's clearly something missing off the back. I'm not sure what this lever is for. It looks like there should be something going in between here, so I don't really know what this would be for, but it's quite interesting. Make a decent bit of garden art, but actually if you could find a picture of an original, find out what's meant to go on the lever, then that might actually make quite an interesting exhibit at a working rally. So I quite like that. A very unusual looking tiny little plough. I can't quite work it. It's clearly mounted, but I can't find any mounting points. There's a top link, obviously, and down here there's what looks like bottom link connections, and I suspect the one on the other side's broken off, but that would be off a garden tractor. But it's quite a hefty plough for a garden tractor, so I'm not quite sure what that's from. Maybe a President, maybe something like that. There's a 2-furrow Massey Ferguson, quite a deep furrow body, and a Ransom's there, which are again quite some deep furrows. Ransom's with a land wheel, much older. That's a deep digger plough. That's definitely got a deep body on it. Mounted again, of course. That's recently been bought in another sale, and it's now in this sale. There's a nice trailer plough there. Wouldn't take much to get that going for a working rally this coming autumn. Some nice bodies on that, actually. Doesn't look too worn out. That's a nice little plough, actually. Go behind a Fortune E27N or something. Period correct. Perhaps something a bit earlier. Well, it's got quite a high draw frame on it, so perhaps something a bit bigger than a standard Fortune. 3-furrow with only 2 furrows on it. Got some spare shares though. Another Ransom's with a land wheel. Mounted harrow attachment, spring harrows, and a Ferguson subsoiler, a single one, and I think a set of mounted Ferguson discs. Now, these are quite useful. You can lift them up out of the ground and transport them down the road. A really lovely period water bowser. That is in very good condition. Lovely ironwork on the front. Some really period wooden wheels with rubber solid tyres on. Fantastic looking galvanised tank. Look at the rivet work on that tank. That looks brilliant. I love that. Don't know if it's got any holes in it. But yeah, great to tow behind a vintage veteran tractor, or something to do with steam perhaps. Got a nice toolbox in the front. None of it's rotten. No woodworm. Bamford's trailed mower. We used to have one of these back in the old days on my small holding with my father. I used to trail it behind a Fergie tractor. That's what we used to cut the hay with. And that is a very nice condition example, actually. It looks like that could probably go to work. It's even got oiled sacking around the blade to try and keep the blade from seizing up. So, and it's all there. Not sure if these would have had a seat. Oh yes, so just down here there's a seat bracket for somebody to sit on the back, I would suggest, actually, but there are no levers as such for someone to operate, so. But that is in nice condition. I wouldn't do anything with that. That could go behind the Hart Par. I think I quite like that. We've got a Reaper binder. Just a Reaper mower, actually. So not a binder, because it doesn't actually bind any sheaves. So this will just basically cut the crop, and then there's some sails on it, or some rakes, which would then sweep the hay or the straw or whatever you're cutting into a swath behind the implement, to come along with people with pitchforks to bind up by hand and make sheaves. Set of harrows and ripple tree, nice condition, not too badly worn. A lovely drill. I would suspect that's a Smith drill. Rather tired looking farm cart. And looking at a lot of the bygones that are here today, I think some of this is ex-museum. So this is a horse-drawn rake by the look of it. Not sure what type of rake. It might even be a harrow of some description, actually. So it's really, there's some stuff here which I've never seen before, basically. It's really quite unusual. See if I can find anything on this. It's a beet topper. Okay, so as you can see, it's got sort of like teeth arranged in a rake style on a drum. The horse would pull it along, the wheels would drive the drum, and it would rip the tops off the sugar beet. That's very unusual. And this is a seeder for, I suspect, let me just double check so I don't make an idiot of myself. It doesn't say. It's got a seeding attachment on the top here, and the wheel is here but the hopper is missing. This would be for possibly for sugar beet, I'm not quite sure. Certainly not potatoes or anything like that, because it's definitely seed, and it's quite a large seeding wheel. Possibly sugar beet. Anyway, something that's going to need a seed in it. Another unusual horse-drawn implement, and I don't for the life of me know what this is for. Really unusual. If anybody's got any ideas what these things do, please let me know. I thought I'd seen it all. But yeah, that is an unusual machine. I mean, possibly because it's got these cones on the wheels, maybe it's for making divots in the ground so you can put plants in, or potatoes, or something such as that. It would make a channel in the ground at the same time. So maybe you'd drive it along in soft soil, and this shape would create a channel in the ground, and then this would make a divot, a hole in the ground for your seed, what you're going to plant. It's a nice pony cart, horse cart. And this is what I mean about, I think that a lot of this is from a museum, because when we get round to the bygones in a minute, you can see that it's all labelled up. So this is a farm wagon, a Lincolnshire farm wagon, and it's got a name on it, Herbert Morley from Wyndham Grange. That'd be Wyndham in Norfolk, and that's in very nice condition. It's clearly been kept dry, kept inside, so I suspect that's from a farm museum or some such description. And we get round the other side in a moment, you'll see that there's quite a few boxes of all sorts of tools, estate tools, garden tools, all sorts of things, which I think has come from some kind of estate clearance or a museum clearance. There's some more modern equipment, Ferguson post auger for making holes for fence posts, a modern, well, to me, a modern fertiliser spreader. We used to have one of those when we used to grow corn. A tangled mess of chain harrows, that would take a bit of sorting out, that's for grassland. And a spring cultivator. Here's another Bamford's mower, and you can see this one has got a seat on it, and it's clearly been subject to a restoration at some point, which, yeah, it's okay, but I prefer the one that's got the patina. The farm I used to work on when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, had 2 or 3 of these Fimax muck spreaders. It was a dairy farm. I remember those clearly. That's a very big memory for me. Forklift attachment, some kind of drainage attachment perhaps, or drainage piece of equipment that you tow along. Yes, it's a mole drain. So here's the mole that you suspend that from the back of the implement, and it would put it into the ground with that hydraulic cylinder, and it would basically cut a hole down the length of your field down which water would run. Nice selection of horse-drawn cultivators and ploughs. A heavy trail cultivator, you need a big tractor for that, or a crawler. That's a semi-digger, that's called. Now that would be semi-digger for horses, because the width of that furrow board is not very tall at all. So I suspect that's been labelled up wrong. But again, it's the same sort of label that we're getting on this museum stuff that's here, but the handles, the shafts are wooden, there's no worm in them. It's got a metal spine. That would work very well with a heavy horse display. And here we've got some more here. Me personally, I'm not sure I want to wrestle with a horse plough. It looks like hard work to me, but you certainly keep fit being a ploughman in those days. Another Ferguson subsoiler, and we've got a couple of these Ferguson butterfly ploughs. So this is the Ferguson answer to reversible plough. It's a deep digger, it's got some really tall boards, so that'll go pretty down deep. Another decent Ransom's older restoration 2-furrow plough. Be good for a working rally. A heavy deep digger plough. Ferguson 3-furrow, got one of those myself. Probably going to sell that because we're not using it now. We've got a smaller one now for our Fergie tractor. Another Ferguson plough, and we've got another butterfly plough here, which one it's a bit more work required. And we finish off with your standard Ford Ransom's 2-furrow. A nice looking roller mill with a grinding attachment on the back of it. So your roller mill would squash your corn to make it edible for cattle to be able to, and sheep and what have you, to be able to digest it. And then you could also grind it with the grinding attachment there, so it would come out as a powder almost, rather than just squashed grains. Big electric motor on the back. Probably scrap the electric motor and put a proper stationary engine on it. There's a few of those here as well, which are some very nice condition stationary engines. We'll see those shortly. Pig feeders. These are always very popular with gardeners. Like to grow flowers in them. Nice big Hater mower. That's a nice mower. 5 horsepower. Various tools and equipment, all sorts of stuff. And now we're getting onto boxes of stuff which I just don't recognise. Yes, clearly saws and things, but here we have got a whole pile of stuff. And this, again, it's all labelled up with this. You know, that's a knife polisher, we can see that. That's a milking stool, but it's all labelled up. So I think this has all come from somebody's collection where they've made a little museum, and there's all sorts. It's an absolute Aladdin's cave of bygones. If you want bygones, I mean, you don't know what you're buying, really. It really would be a lucky dip. Various estate tools. That is a beet or a root chopper or something similar. So this is upside down, obviously, and the table would be on its legs, and this would be, that would chop your beet up, ready for feeding to your cattle or your sheep or whatever it is you want to feed in the wintertime. I really don't know what that is. Looks like some cradle of some description. All sorts of weird and wonderful things. There's some walk behind drills, single row drills, cultivators. Yeah, this is a sale to come if you want some bygones, that's for sure. Gosh. Boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. All sorts of stuff. And anybody so inclined would have fun probably trying to figure out what a lot of this stuff does. And you know, to me it's a real shame that people throw this stuff away. I'm glad that it's being sold. I'm hoping that when it gets back to where it's going to next, someone's actually going to do something with it rather than scrap it, because this is our history. This is how we fed ourselves and our country. All this stuff that appears at these sales, this is what it was done. This is how we did what we did in the day to keep the country fed, making food, growing food, grinding corn for bread, malt, cutting the grass so you can play tennis, hoeing the land, transporting the milk, putting your whiskey in the barrel, and all the bits and pieces that go with all of this stuff, all the mechanical bits. Yeah, there's a steam engine jack there, big wind-up steam engine jack. We've got some cherry cans for diesel, we've got an oil pump, a lovely Atco Royal mower, that's a bowling green mower I would imagine, or a cricket pitch mower. All of this stuff was used to produce food. Lots of weird and wonderful hand tools. I mean, what was that for? It's a barley cocking fork. Well, every day is a school day. Every day is a school day. That is a huge pitchfork we've got there. So many different things. This looks like some kind of ditching attachment. Yep. Gripping spade for ditch cutting. That's what that's for. So I do know something. I thought that's what it was before I read it, by the way. Just incredible. Sisal baler twine. Now this stuff is very, very difficult to get hold of, and old balers now, like old balers, they don't run very well on polypropylene baler twine. They have to have sisal. So anybody with an old baler, that would be ideal for them. More hand tools. There's a really lovely little walk behind it that's been made up out of a bicycle wheel and a frame. Cedars. There's another root chopper. So a moment ago we saw a table with a lever knife. This one has got a knife on it here. So this knife would basically, your root would come through there and you'd feed it through from the other side, and then you just turn the wheel and it would chop the root as you needed it. Slightly more mechanised than the previous version of what we saw. Now, there's always a good selection of tractor spares. What we have here is a lot of Ford classic stuff from 60s, 70s and upwards. All sorts of stuff. Windscreens, bonnets, roofs, steering gear, loads of wheels and tyres. There's always lots of wheels and tyres at this sale. They tend to sort of sit around in barns, and the old man says, get rid of them, don't need them no more, we've got rid of the tractor, put them in the sale. So they appear here, and we can see absolutely loads of stuff here, all sorts of things, and plenty for the classic tractor enthusiast, that's for sure, to put on the back of their tractor. Even if you use, I mean, things like this. This is a set of wings for a Ferguson with a good bonnet, and good bonnets for Fergusons are very hard to get hold of. They're usually bashed and mangled. This one's got a few dents and dings on it, but it's not rotten, and neither are the wings. They are definitely salvageable. There's a little bit of rot in the bottom there, which is where they all go, but that's easily plated because there's no shape to that. You could easily put a plate in there and make that work again. Certainly better than the wings I've got on our tractor, that's for sure. Bits of hydraulics, engines, engine parts, transmission parts, axle parts. This is a very handy tool here. This is a Ferguson jack, which you use off the back of the 3-point linkage, and you connect it up to the tractor, and using the 3-point linkage it lifts the back wheels off the floor, so you can change the wheels or change the track of the wheels. Now there's a good range of stationary engines this time. First of all, we've got a Gardner 5-cylinder. Now this is an absolute beaut of an engine. Looks complete. No cooling system, as in no radiator, but everything else is there, and it looks like it's been looked after. Absolutely, I bet that sounds lovely when that's plonking away. Gardners have got a very distinctive sound, and like a lot of engines of course, but yeah, it can't be a Gardner diesel surely. Perhaps you can. There's 3 or 4 good ones out there, but we've got a few old painted up engines, so such as the ones, you know, that were restored a while ago. There's a lister there. but we've also got everything from that to hedge fines. So this one's clearly been outside. The tank's rotted away. I suspect it's seized up. Yes, it is. Another lister. Five horsepower. I don't know the model. I don't know my stationary engines very well. Other people will tell me exactly what that is, I'm sure. This is a Petter. A Lister D. I do know what Lister Ds look like, and I do know what Bamfords look like as well. They've got a very distinctive water hopper on the top there, like that sort of inverted pyramid. But again, it's got some fantastic gearing in there. I really do love these old engines, these old open crank engines. They've got just brilliant mechanics on them. This is the Magneto, and this, I love this. This is fantastic. Look at that. That's real steampunk stuff, that, isn't it? That's a fantastic little engine, that. A nice Crossley engine. And a Ruston Hornsby with another Lister. Lots of listers today. There's two more there on a pallet, and one here which has clearly been very well looked after with some diesel. The lovely patina on that is absolutely brilliant. Fantastic generator on the back. But that wouldn't take a lot to get going. It's even got the switch gear and the switch panel to go with it. That would make these days of self-sufficiency, somebody wanted to power their ranch, I'm sure that that would do that quite easily. I did watch a YouTube video not so long ago of somebody that actually used an old engine such as that one to power some electricity for his small holding, and yes, it burns diesel, so there's an environmental cost, but the cost of running that engine was cheaper than getting it off the grid for the same job. So some days it might be worth investing in something like that. Now, I'm not entirely sure what this is, but clearly there is, it's a saw. So I've just seen the saw blade down there in the bottom there. So this is a Bamford, by the look of it, a Bamford's powered engine, saw, cross saw. On a frame, looks like everything's there with all you need to allow it to saw up wood. I wouldn't like to get in the way of it though. I think the engine's missing, oh no, the mag's on the back, so I'm not sure if that's Bamford's or not. It does look like a Bamford's. A couple of Hornsbys, Lister, and we got some big boys engines now. So this one is a, let me have a look because I'm not quite sure, it doesn't actually tell me. It's a Ruston again, another Ruston Hornsby, and the one next to it is also a Ruston, which looks like it's been looked after as well. Big diesel engine. It's got the blow lamp with it, and the blow lamp basically goes under the cylinder head under there, heats the bulb in the front, a bit like a Lands Bulldog used to do that. Hoffers used to do that, used to heat the bulb at the front of the engine so it got hot so that the fuel would ignite. It's got all the piping for the cooling. It's very nice. If you're into big engines, it's very nice. Looks like we've got a steam pump here, and possibly another one there. So again, if you've got steam kit, again, another one there. That one's broken, so that looks like that could be scrap or just for parts maybe. And another steam pump there. So we've got, what, crikey, 4 steam pumps. Very interesting open crank I think this is also steam. Yes, because it's lagged. So there's lagging in there. So that's another steam pump. And you can see here that we've got, I suspect that's, presumably that reciprocates with the engine. So it's on the end of the piston. So the flywheel's at this end with the crank. You pipe steam into it. You've got the valve gear here. You pipe steam into the cylinder, that operates the piston, and on the end of the piston you've got a rod coming out the end of it into the pump. Interesting, lots of work. Now this is a Sutton engine, again steam I suspect. Wish my son was here, he'd be able to tell me. Yeah, I think that's a steamer. And then another one down here, another steam pump. So I wonder if somebody's had a bit of a clear out and been collecting these things. Joseph Evans and Sons, Wolverhampton. And this is a nice little engine. Looks like something, just a single cylinder engine dismantled. It's not too dismantled. Someone would know that was. I have not. I've got a clue who made that or what it is. Got an air compressor stroke generator. Lister engine in it. No, it's a generator. On-site generator for building sites and such like. Could be ex-army, could be, it's green, so it could be ex-army, something like that maybe. I'm not sure because it's not got army fittings on it, but yeah, 2-cylinder diesel by the look of it, Lister. It's in good condition. I mean, there's no rot on the tin work or anything, is it? It's very nice. Now we've got a little Petter engine there. I think that's a Petter. A Coventry Victor diesel. Yeah, that's a Petter A1. That one there. And this one is a Coventry Victor diesel. That's an unusual engine. Don't see many of those around. It's very good. Yeah, good selection of engines. I like them. And steam pumps, if that's what you like. Now, to me, Cheffins was always a vintage sale, which meant old cars, old tractors, old equipment, old bygones. But here we have an end plate Daihatsu 4-track. End plate 1990 MNP 95, something like that. It's not vintage, but you could argue that it's a classic, I suppose. There's the Dutton. I still remember you, Mark Headley, driving that into college. If you're still around, I'm still around too. Great memories. Land Rovers are always classic, but then I'm a Land Rover nut, so to me Land Rovers are the bee's knees. Everyone's a classic. There's some really nice commercials in this one as well. A couple of Fodens. Looks like that's a horse box or something similar, not quite sure. But yeah, it's nice. Again, a lovely Foden pickup. Lovely Foden flatbed, possibly. Or maybe it had a box body on it. But you could put anything you wanted on that. Foden, of course, were a big manufacturer in Sandbach in Cheshire. And they started with steam in the early 1900s. Late 1800s, started with steam lorries, and they've manufactured lorries all the way through. Old tractor unit from C.S. Ellis in Rutland, and a very nice Foden, all sign written up for Malcolm's, Brookfield. Now Malcolm's, they are still going, I think. They are Scottish. Malcolm haulage contractors, you see them on the roads now. still going strong. Same colour scheme as well, dark, very dark blue. I'm wondering now if we've got a Foden collection going on that's been disbanded, because there's another one there. Lovely 8-legger flatbed. There's a Green Goddess Bedford fire appliance, but it's all painted up red in fire colours. That would have started life in the army probably. Green Goddess is the affectionate name known for these fire engines, came from the army. Got CS Ellis written on the side, so that's clearly that would have been used on site at Ellis's yard as the fire appliance should they have a fire. An Atkinson 8-legger, beautiful condition, another CS Ellis machine. Big MAN beaver tail. It says driven in 90 miles it did to get here. That's an 06. That's seen some work. It's got a bit of patina on that one. What do we call it? Rust. Lovely ERF from 1974 flatbed. That's had a full restoration by the look of it. There's a lot of history in the front of that. Again, driven 150 miles into the sale. It's got a Gardner 180 engine in it. Very nice. There's a lot of pictures with that. Looks like it's got some history to it. It would appear that it's got some fairground history to it by the look of it. So yeah, it was a travelling shooting range in the southwest of England, and now it's been restored as a flatbed. If you're into your commercials, that'd be quite a nice thing to have, I think. Another ERF with a Gardner engine in it. Nice little exhibit. There's a modern Volvo FM12. A lovely Bedford, made in Dunstable in Bedfordshire. I used to go into Bedford's factory in Dunstable when I worked on the forklift trucks. That was quite a place, I have to say. One for the kids. If you want a Thomas replica, goodness knows only what on earth it's built on, but anyone's guess under there. Anyone's guess. So it's built on a Mercury tug, which you found those in dockyards and such like. Old oil drums cut up to make the fenders, make the boiler. It's probably got air brakes on it, so, or a compressor at least, so you've got a whistle on it. Unimog, one owner from new. It looks like it as well. Beautiful condition. My son is currently working for a company that repairs Unimogs. He's doing that as a summer job before he goes off to university, and it looks like it's got a fifth wheel dolly for it as well, same colour, so I imagine that is probably a matching pair there, a matching set. So it'd be interesting to look at this, I'm sure, because he's suddenly got enthusiastic about Unimogs now that he's working on them. Yeah, there's your quick coupling for the fifth wheel dolly on the back, so you could pull that with a Arctic trailer on it. Another Foden, another ERF, but with a fifth wheel on the back, tractor unit. Some very nice commercials this time around. Another Unimog, and we finish off with a Scania and what was called the Leyland Road Train. And these were the wagons back in the 70s that you saw them everywhere. You just don't see Leylands anymore because they were bought out, I think, by DAF. Do we still see DAFs anymore? I'm not quite sure. So yeah, quite a lineup of commercials. They've stopped making the Ford Fiesta, and suddenly Ford Fiestas have become desirable, the modern ones. So if you've got a Ford Fiesta, sell it, because otherwise someone's going to nick it, and you might make quite a bit of money on them as well. Now this clearly has had a bit of a hard life, but it will be a future classic, I expect. Very similar to the one we saw earlier. The only steamer in this sale, full size, is this Roby tandem roller. There's a couple of I think 6-inch models in sale number 1 today, which we'll go and have a look at last. But it's a very nice Roby tandem roller. I don't know the condition of it. It looks pretty decent, but of course you can never tell with a steam engine what the inside is like. But an unusual machine, you don't see many of these. They did make a triple one as well. Gypsy caravan, or is it maybe a fairground, original fairground caravan, horse-drawn one perhaps. Farm cart, nice condition very much. A lovely, lovely patina Marshall, look at that. You would not want to paint that, would you? You would not want to paint that. That is absolutely beautiful. Original condition, that's what that's called. Absolutely spot on. Got a road registration with it as well, so you can take it on the road. Definitely one to have, that would be. I think I've said before that some of these tractors to me aren't vintage tractors or even classic tractors, but these tractors are from the 80s and 90s, so they're 30 years old, and they're the sort of stuff I worked on when I first started out as being a mechanic in the agricultural industry. And to me this is nothing old, this is what I worked on. With the Ford 5000s, 4000, 3000s, and the derivatives of those, the roadless and the such like, the conversions. That's a little bit older for me. They were the 60s. Of course, tractors haven't changed much in the last, well, I don't think tractors changed much from sort of the 1960s through to the 1980s. And then the radical changes came along with lots of new technology, of course. High crop Massey 65. The Massey 65 was a lovely little tractor, actually. It was just the right sort of power, nothing too heavy. I used to drive one on a farm when I was a teenager in the summer. This is a high crop version for going through crops. And a majestic 1200 Massey Ferguson 4-wheel drive articulated tractor. There was one in the previous sale. This is not the same one. This isn't quite as good, well done in its restoration. This one looks like it's just been blown over with a... I might be a bit unfair in that, actually. It looks a bit better than that, but there's not much attention to detail on this. But it's a Massey 1200 nonetheless. There's not many. And next to that is the MB Track. Again, the 90s, 80s, 90s tractor. If that's your thing. There's one here. We saw a couple of roadless a minute ago, and County were the other company that took Ford skid units and made into 4-wheel drive tractors. Very popular. They make lots and lots of money. A Deutz tool carrier. Not quite a tractor. Similar job, but designed to do certain jobs for the vegetable industry. That is actually, reading that, it says ex-Silso research, so maybe that was a test vehicle for Silso when the National Institute of Agricultural Engineering was at Silso in Bedfordshire. So perhaps that's what that is. Built by Deutz, German company. Big international. 966, I would suspect that is American import. It's got American style tyres on it. Big prairie tractor from the 70s. And then we've got this humongous great Versatile. It's actually badged up as a Fiat, but it's built by Versatile in America. Prairie tractor. In the 80s, farms got bigger, they chopped down lots of hedgerows, they made the fields bigger so they could put equipment like this in and effectively make more food. But they killed all the birds and all the other wildlife that lived in the fields, and now we're going back to reducing the size of fields and adding in margins for fields for allow the birds and the wildlife to regenerate itself. Some hedges have been replanted, and tractors like this, they're not a thing of the past because there's some big farms that still use this equipment and it does get the job done quickly, but you don't see many this size anymore. Now that's a very modern John Deere 8100. That's the sort of size tractor that you see a lot of on your general farms these days. 1970s 80s John Deere 2250. I think that's an Izeki, which is Ford, New Holland. And there's a very interesting loader attachment on that Ford there. Ford 3000 is it, or a Ford 4000? Ford 3000. That's a handy little tool, that one, if ever I saw one. And it's actually got a bucket on the front with a scoop that you can take off. Basically slide the scoop off and it becomes a muck fork. That's very handy. If you've got a small holding, that would be an ideal little tractor. Case IH 7240, another modern tractor. Well, I say modern by standards for this sale. 7810s. And we've got a bit of a mixture at this end, so we've got a Nuffield 1060 from 1965-66, another John Deere 2650 style, 70s, 80s, and at the back here we've got a Ford Super Major, which was badged as the 5000. It's the earlier 4000. I'm not sure quite of the timeline for Fords from that point onwards. But this was the tractor that was designed to replace the E27N, and it evolved into the Super Major, which then evolved into the 4 Series pre-force with the square front and took away the rounded cowling, of which we have a selection along the line here. There's a 5000 and a 4, and you can see the difference in the grills. So this is an early one. This is the earlier grille with the flat front, as in horizontal, and these are the later ones, which is the Force series of tractors with the alternative type of grille. There's always a couple of Massey 65s, and I really would like one of these. I used to drive one, as I say, and it brings back a lot of memories. We were talking earlier about, you know, cars of a period. Went on holiday in that, you know, Dad had one of them, but that to me, I drove one of those week in, week out, all summer, back in the 80s, early 80s, and that would bring back some lovely memories, that would. In fact, it's bringing back lovely memories right now. International, 1980s Internationals. 55 XLs, big Ford 5000 with some fat front tyres on it. Caterpillar D2, lovely little tractor those, plenty of power. Later one with the tank on the side of the wing there. The earlier ones had the tanks in the back of the seat, fuel tank. Still got a donkey engine for starting, a little petrol engine, 2-cylinder engine, and lots of levers and such like to be able to engage the diesel engine to run it up under no compression, and then you throw the compression lever, having got speed up, and away she goes, and some temperature, and away she fires, and there you've got you started your diesel engine. A red and grey Fergie, I hear you ask, what is that all about? Well, I'll tell you what that's all about. That is a French Ferguson 30, and the colour scheme was clearly grey because it was a Ferguson, and all Fergusons at that period were grey, with a red chassis, red frame, transmission, engine, etc. It looks a bit unusual to me. It was in the Massey Harris Ferguson period, so it was after Ferguson the T20, but clearly it's very similar to a T20, but it was when Massey Harris and Ferguson started to collaborate, which is why it's red, because Massey Harris was red. And then of course it moved on from there to the Ferguson 35, the grey and gold, and then the Ferguson 35 that everybody knows and loves. Nice condition. We've actually got quite a nice selection of tractors here, just walking up and down the lines. We've got everything here today, except anything that's really ancient. A very nice ED40 Alice Chalmers, British built, David Brown Cropmaster. We've got a 201 Massey Harris, and a David Brown 900, all in very good condition. And that 990 we saw a moment ago, back over there by the Massey 30, the Fergie 30, it was, again, beautifully restored. You couldn't go wrong here with this sale, I don't reckon. There's some lovely little tractors here if you're into buying something to put in your collection or even use. It's very interesting. Industrial Ferguson, an industrial David Brown, that'd be quite useful for pulling heavy things around a yard, such as traction engines. It's got air on it, it's got an air compressor, and it's got air connections for brakes and such like, so that'll be used for shunting shunting trailers and such like in a lorry yard, I would imagine. But again, you don't see one of them very often, that's for sure. Could do with some new tyres. Z-Tour. Now Z-Tours, they're a bit Marmite, I think. Czechoslovakian. They were quite popular, but of course they tried to compete with Ferguson and Ford and International. They were in the sort of Belarus or Belarus sort of league from the Eastern Bloc. Of course we've got plenty of 135s, Massey Fergusons, very popular tractor, very easy to work on, loads of parts available. There's loads of those, same with the Fergie T20. Now this is a very unusual Ferguson. So it's clearly a Massey Ferguson. I would suspect, without looking, that it's French. Yes, it is. It's a Massey Ferguson MF821. And it's obviously for the European market, vineyards and such like. So it's got an MF35 bonnet on it, but the rest is completely alien. It looks like it might even have a supercharger on it. I think it's got a supercharger on there. It's a Hanomag diesel, and I think this is a blower for extra power. This is your exhaust manifold. This has got to be a blower. I suspect two-stroke. So this is, I suspect it's two-stroke, and so this is your induction from your air cleaner, and then the intake is into the side of the engine block. So it's a two-stroke Hanomag, I would imagine. But that makes a noise when it runs. I'll buy that just for the engine. Very interesting. Two-stroke Hanomag diesel, Massey Ferguson 821 French. Fordson Power Major County crawler conversion. Again, popular conversion from County. The only crawler tractors that, well, Ford didn't make crawler tractors. They made, they let people like County convert them. Little Farmwell H, could do with a little bit of work. What are conspicuous by their relative absence are T20s. There's not many T20s here. That's probably because they're all at Wheating this weekend. There is a sea of grey at Wheating Rally, and there is a lot of Ferguson T20 tractors. Probably, dare I say it, too many. And this is an interesting conversion at the end here. It's a Fordson E27N with a Perkins, I think, L4 engine. Can't actually see it written up anywhere. don't think it's a P4, I think it's an L4. It was a popular conversion in the day. Didn't quite have the power of the P6, the 6-cylinder, but it was a popular conversion to put Perkins engines in Ford tractors at the time. And Perkins was eventually bought by Massey Ferguson, so that relationship ended with Ford, and Massey Ferguson basically exclusively had Perkins engines in their tractors. Of course, Perkins sold engines to other people in the commercial industry and the marine industry, but they were no longer in Ford tractors after that. And as we said before, getting down to the end of the line, the tractor line, there's your restoration candidates. So there's an International B275 or 250 there. There's a Ford 2000, looks like that could do with a bit of love and attention. Big 8600. Nuffield, I suspect with a Bray front axle conversion on it. That's what they always used to have, Nuffield Universals. A very stripped down Leyland, no cab, no wings, 262, probably parts tractor for that, I would imagine. An International B450. Again, nice patina on that actually. It would work well in a collection if you didn't want to paint anything, but you didn't want to do too much work. Little vineyard tractor. See how narrow that tractor is, that Ford. I suspect a 3000. Really narrow, get down between the vines and the orchards, between the trees. Orange Fordson. Told you the story about the orange Fordson in the last video we did at Cheffins. A nice TD6 crawler, International. Again, if you've got the capability of lugging it around. It's a TD6, which means it was American manufacture and then imported. And if it was a B TD6, that means it was a British built TD6. Little Farm All A, they're a nice little tractor. Got the offset driving position so that you could see, you have mid-mounted cultivators and seeders and such like down under your feet, and you would sit offset to the engine so that you could see what was happening with the ground below. Farm All A, lovely little tractor that could do with a nice little bit of recommissioning, I think. That would be a great little job, that one. Another TD6 crawler. We've got some antiques now. We've got an International 1020. Older restoration, I think they call that. But it's got some fantastic cleats on. These have got hardly any wear on them. Look at that. That's done very little work. Very little work. But as I've found out with a Hart Par, tractors with iron wheels and cleats are an absolute pain in the neck to move about. Can't beat rubber tyres. There's a Case Dex, DEX, again ripe for restoration. It's missing a carburettor, could do with some air in the tyres. Other than that, it looks pretty complete. Parts of the carburettor are in a box or in a bowl full of water. But if you like Case tractors, that's a nice little job, that one. I think that would work very well. Presumably it's seized. No, it's not seized, it works. So it turns over, you're halfway there. Caterpillar D4, agricultural version, I think. Got a 3-point linkage on the back. There's no dozer blade, there's just a very heavy front weight for carrying hefty implements on the back of it. So a big plough and the front weight would counteract the weight of the plough on the back. D4 would do some serious work in a day, I think. That's a decent tractor, that. But blooming heavy. Here we've got a Fordson Major Industrial. It's been used on the farm according to the history on the front. About 30 years for blowing out combines. It's got a generator on the front, a welding kit, basically welding unit. driven off the belt pulley. It looks a little bit homemade, but it says it's been used for welding. It's got a huge air compressor on the back, and then it's got 2 air receiver tanks underneath. So I think when you blow down a combine with this, you'd know about it. So I suspect it was an agricultural that has been fitted out with an absolutely massive compressor on the back end. This is producing the pipe size on that compressor. Look at the diameter of that pipe. That is producing some serious airflow, that thing, definitely. Actually, you can knock down buildings with that one. It's got industrial tyres on it. Yeah, interesting machine. If you need something with all that kit on, it's at Cheffins, ripe for restoration. Macoric Deering W30 or W20. I'm not too sure. I have to be honest, I don't know my McCormick Deerings very well. I stand corrected on that. I'm not entirely sure of the model, but certainly ripe for restoration, that one. Got some diddy little wheels on the back though. They look incorrect for the size of the mud guards, the wings. But maybe a parts tractor if you've got something similar. A couple of very interesting tractors. Now these are Lanz Bulldogs. The grey one on the far side on the left, that is a Lanz built in Germany. And the orange one nearest to me is a Lanz, but it is built in Argentina. So it's a Pampa. So I suspect how it used to work was badge engineering. It was built under license by a company called Pampa in Argentina, using all of Lanz's parts and drawings, etc. And it's a single cylinder 2-stroke diesel, very much like a Marshall, and they are a hefty bit of kit. Very interesting. This one's got a very nice cab on it. And Lanz were pioneers of the single cylinder 2-stroke. They used a lot of them in all of their tractors. And John Deere's, I think, are now built in the Lanz factory. I think Lanz and John Deere came to an agreement back in the 60s, and they build John Deere tractors in the factory to this day. At Lanz Bulldog. Big man's tractor, you might say. There's a little Kendall market garden tractor with some ridging bodies on it for potatoes. An interesting Ford diesel, Perkins P4 possibly, or an L4, similar to the E27N we saw a little while ago. A restoration with a Perkins diesel in it. Don't know if that would be original or if somebody perhaps has done that since. Very difficult to say. Here we've got a County Fordson E27N, again with a 4-cylinder diesel in it. Perkins, older restoration. Very similar to the one we saw a moment ago, which was a Power Major version. That was the E27 was the prior, the predecessor to that. And if you saw my Stradset rally video, then you'll have seen the feature on Turner Yeoman of England tractors, the yellow and green. And the distinctive thing about these was that they had a V4 diesel engine. They were a successful company, but the tractor wasn't that successful. And they're still going now, but tractors were left far behind back in the 60s. Very nice Marshall, Field Marshall again. Driven in, it says, so clearly it works. I think I prefer the other one that I saw earlier, but I suppose you could make this one look like that by covering it in paraffin and diesel. That looks like a nice tractor. And we've got a 165 4-wheel drive conversion. Now again, 165s, I used to drive these on the farm I worked at when I was a teenager. Brings back lots of memories. Never had a 4-wheel drive version though, but that was used for grain cart 165 back in the day. Just 2 more things I want to show you in the tractor line. There's a nicely restored Ferguson T20 petrol paraffin. But what I want to show you is down here. So here's your solution to having a crawler tractor. Buy the tractor with its trailer. So if you've got something D2 sized or TD6 sized, you can buy the trailer to tow it around. Problem solved. Except you need a big tractor to tow it around. But that's a decent little trailer, that, isn't it? Purpose built by the look of it for the job. Nice tractor on the top too. Lovely patina. Very nice indeed. And then finally, something that I've always liked the look of are these David Brown Threshermans or Industrials. They made a couple of different versions of these. This isn't a full Thresherman, so I don't think it's got the pulley on the front. Let's have a look round the other side. No, there's no pulley on this one, so the Thresherman had a pulley here at this front corner here. This is an industrial version, but very nice. Used on airfields, used in commercial applications, lorry yards, etc. And yeah, beautiful little tractor. So that is Cheffins' July sale at Sutton near Ely in Cambridgeshire. That's what's coming up on Saturday, and now I've got to get back to wheating, having had a very long day at Cheffins looking at everything for sale. And this is the end of the afternoon, early evening. We're just heading off to get some water for the little engine, and then it'll be barbecue time, then a bit of beer tent, then a bit of bedtime, and then we do wheating day 2. If you enjoyed Cheffins, please give us a like and subscribe, and catch us on the next one. Until then, take care and bye for now.